And I was like, no, it cannot be happening to me again. This is at the end for my 1997 300 DDI Defender. I'm not trying to be melodramatic with this video. I've just got to tell the story of the last 4 months because it has been it's been like a carry-on film. This year was quite monumental for my vehicle. Went past 200,000 miles. It's 26 years old. So August, my MOT expired. I had no chance of working on that vehicle because I was working on my second Defender. I was trying to get that one MOT'd and working by the end of the summer, which I did. I got that one past its MOT in August. The right-hand drive one expired and I had to go away for pretty much the whole of September overseas. So I booked the MOT in right for the end of September. I made sure I had 3 days clear run into that MOT when I got back, and I worked on that vehicle for 3 days trying to prep to pass the MOT. I was dealing with advisories from last year, like wheel bearing, adjusting the wheel bearings. I found out that the brake pads were so near the end. I hadn't been paying attention. They were right near the end. So naturally the calipers were corroded and the pistons won't go back in. So I had new calipers, new pads, and I had to turn this all around in 3 days. I put it in for its MOT on the Thursday. It failed on 4 things that I was not expecting. It failed on seatbelt corrosion, which it's always been a bit crusty, but this year it's got really bad. It's weird because the other side, the seatbelt on the other side, is just almost perfect. So I bought secondhand Puma seatbelts. I was considering do I just remove the seats and the seatbelt and just be done with it? But I do kind of need the seats there. Hole in the bulkhead next to the brake pedal mountings. That I've known about, that kind of corroding for a while, and all of a sudden it's just completely gone through. Headlamp, left-hand headlamp being out of adjustment. I think what happened there was the kind of the backing plate. It's got this a metal screw that goes into plastic, and it just wears away. The threads wear away, and it just ends up sort of wriggling forwards and backwards and adjusting the headlight. And then wiper, insufficient travel. It was either like a centimetre of flappy bit of rubber, or the fact that it's in resting, it's too high on the adjustment. So that was the Thursday. On the Sunday, I was flying overseas again. No chance of turning around. So I completely missed my opportunity to do a retest. That was 54 quid down the drain. So I had to take the wing off to deal with the bulkhead welding. In doing so, I found out that the radiator completely crumbled inside, so I needed a new radiator. I was due having to replace the coolant anyway, fine. And actually the timing belt was coming up to 10 years old, a little bit naughty on my part. So I thought, radiator's out, let's do the timing belt as well. That took friggin' ages, and particularly when you're welding, MIG welding, and you need to wait for the perfect, windless conditions and dry conditions in October. So put it all back together, went off, booked another MOT, went off for that. That's when you saw in my other video, the coolant hose popped off, lost all the coolant, couldn't get to that MOT because it had all gone wrong. So then I had to go through the palaver, coolant hoses, that's all fitted, back on. So then I booked it in for its next MOT. 3 failures. 3 new failures. Bear in mind, I've driven this vehicle like 50 miles in the previous 2.5 months, doing like warm-up runs and shakedowns. From the 3 months where it failed previously, and I fixed everything, it's now got 3 new failures. The 4 failures, it's now got 3 new failures just from being sat around doing nothing. Let's rewind a bit. So I done a lights check just before that MOT. Left-hand front side repeater wasn't working. I had to take it off, take the bulb out, wiggle it, put it back in, and it was working. I did a long run to that MOT, got it really, really hot for about 45 minutes. Funnily enough, that MOT passed on emissions with a 0.53. So all that palaver last year that I did the video about trying to get emissions down, because it completely failed on emissions, this year they're okay. Either that was warming up more, or having replaced the timing belt, maybe the timing belt was stretched a bit more. I did kind of feel that the pump was a bit more advanced than it should have been, which leads to smokiness. And the timing's probably more correct now. Maybe the belt was stretching, something like that. So that probably played a part into having the better emissions. So I failed on the rear exhaust pipe snapped. So I arrived at the MOT station, I parked and I turned the engine off, and you hear a kind of a jingly clatter. That only happens when the exhaust pipe snapped. And I was like, no, can't be that. So I just went into the MOT. Failed on a snapped exhaust pipe, completely snapped through. That's the 3rd time that's happened on that vehicle in my ownership. the aftermarket parts do not last more than 5 years. It's incredible. No matter how much you drive it, they just will not survive. Washer's not working. Windscreen washer's not working, both front and rear. I had replaced the washer bottle in this time as well, and I guess the connection wasn't back in exactly the right place. I did see that on the MOT and I was like, oh, they're not working. On the run up to the MOT, I just had to put it through. And then a plate and the track rod end on the Draglink, which I only replaced 5 years ago. That was a Delphi job, but lo and behold, there's quite a bit of play in that. Also, 2 advisories. The silencer, the mid silencer on the exhaust, it's got a small leak, and the front tyres are perishing, which I've known about. I've been wanting to get the tyres replaced this year because they're now 14 years old. The rear ones they're only 4 years old, but the front ones are 14 years old. BFG all-terrains, and they're worn, they're out of balance, and it's just been on my list, but everything else has been just getting in the way. I left that MOT and the low coolant light went on, and it stayed on. You know, and I was like, no, it cannot be happening to me again. And that was corrosion on the connections on the low coolant alarm, so I sort of play with that a bit. So I fitted a new genuine exhaust, I fitted a new track rod, which was amazing actually, having copper greased the hell out of that and using the new Draglink 5 years ago. That was a breeze getting that off. It was amazing. So copper grease went back on in copious amounts. And I cleaned all the contacts. I cleaned the contacts on the washer pump, I cleaned the contacts on the low coolant alarm and got them all nice and working. Put it in, passed its MOT. 3.5 months later, after it originally expired, I managed to get it to pass its MOT. So I came back, and because the Draglink had changed a bit, new ball joint or whatever, the steering wheel was a bit out. I adjusted the steering wheel, went out, took it for a run, literally within an hour of it passing its MOT, no indicators. Indicators don't work, hazards don't work, nothing. The fuse is okay. I have spent 9 days of my annual leave this year working on that vehicle. That doesn't include what I spent on the other vehicle. Working on this vehicle, it's been off the road. This is my daily driver. It's off the road. It's been off the road 30% of the time this year. Across the both Defenders, I've probably spent £5,000 on parts this year. When is enough enough? 2020 was great. I spent so much time. I did the mid-cross member, I did the B&C post, trying to eliminate so much corrosion. And it passed for a couple of years with no advisories or failures. And I did a video around then about I need the chassis to last another 2 years. It's near the end of its life, I totally accept that, and remedial action does need to occur. Hoping that I'd get a house and be able to do a rebuild. It's been 3 years now. The chassis is not great. Corrosion is going to come up and bite me from any position. I can't be spending 4 months every year trying to get this vehicle back on the road. When is enough enough? When should I just say, pull it off the road and just say, there's no point spending any more time or money on this thing until I do the rebuild. Let's just park it up, sawn it, and leave it. I'm almost at that stage, and then get another vehicle as a daily driver. Maybe another Defender. My left-hand drive one, I don't want to use that. I've had to use that more this autumn than I actually wanted to. I don't want that to subject that one to the horrendous weather conditions. So I've always had an MOT in the summer months on the right-hand drive Defender so that I can work on it in the summer. And this has been my absolute worst nightmare, is working in the autumn and the winter to try and pass an MOT. So really, I need to have another MOT in about 6 months' time so that it's reset back to the summer months. I'm not sure if I can be asked with any of that. At what point do you take a vehicle off the road? I mean, from all the analysis, all the mileage I can see on the Defender registry I've got on LR Workshop, Defenders tend to stop getting used. You can see that the average mileage for each year of registered Defender plateaus about 145,000 miles. So that means that the average mileage of all Defenders of that year gets to 145,000. It doesn't really go much beyond that. So that's about the lifespan of most people have for their Defenders. Either they get scrapped, or they get exported, or they get rebuilt and kind of reset, and people don't use them that much, so the mileage doesn't increase that much, or they just reset the odometer with a new speedo. Mine's at 200,000, Am I pushing it? Am I flogging a dead horse? I'd love to know your comments below, because this has been very trying and very expensive this year, and I don't want this to continue. And the garage, you'll see from my other videos, will not come a moment too soon, because I need that garage to be able to work on that Defender and get it fully rebuilt. I've got tons of parts stored ready to rebuild this thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be interested to read your comments based on your experiences. When did you take your Defender off your road? When did you say enough was enough? How much corrosion is too much corrosion? How many MOT failures? I've had 7 MOT failure points and 3 advisories this year. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.